Greetings to you this morning. I am Omega Burkhart, the ministerial intern of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Rockford, Illinois. We are coming to you live this morning on November 22nd at 10 a.m. Central. Of course, you may be coming to us at a different time or a different space altogether, and we're thrilled however you found us. Welcome to you and all that you bring with you this morning. Perhaps you are a friend or a member of this congregation and you are returning in joyful community and togetherness. You are welcome. You may be new to our congregation and perhaps you're joining us in a spirit of seeking and of wonder. You are welcome. Perhaps you are joining us to this today with a spirit of anxiety, frustration, sadness. You are especially welcome here today. You are welcomed if you are coming to us from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, or perhaps a different denomination, or maybe no congregation at all. You are welcome here. Whoever you are and whatever you bring with you today, you are welcome. Some of us are coming to you live this morning from the sanctuary. I'm coming to you live from the sanctuary of my home office, given the current health crisis. Reverend Mitra Rahnema will be with us this morning, one of our distinguished pulpit guests at our church. Tim Anderson, our colleague in worship and the music director, is also with us today. He'll be playing from the sanctuary. Autumn Powell, our office manager, is of course running all of the technology for us and making this experience happen for us today. Lindsay Dunn, the director of religious education, has chosen a wonderful book for us to read this morning, entitled I Am Human. Our worship associate, Shiraz Tata, has pre-recorded her testimony and will be sharing it with you a little later in the service. Chris Ainsworth, our membership coordinator, is at home but is chiming in on the Facebook feed. Feel free to say hi to Chris this morning. And of course, if you are watching this live on Facebook, please feel free to say hi and greet your fellow community members. But remember, it is a public forum. So I will pause for a moment and I will ring the bell and we will begin worship together. Please join us in the singing of our first hymn this morning. The hymn is the hymn of the month, I Brought My Spirit to the Sea, hymn number 4.
Upon infinity, I heard the water.
The flaming chalice is a symbol of our faith, a beacon of truth, a fire for justice, and a warmth for the soul. As the chalice is being lit in the sanctuary and you light your chalice at home, as I have done here, I invite you to say the words of our covenant. The words will appear on the screen. This month, we've been exploring the theme of spirituality through metaphors of labyrinths, voyages, yellow brick roads, and favorite hymns such as Spirit of Life. All of these outward-looking metaphors are ways in which we can explore what our relationship to the world is like, where we fit in, and what our personal experience does to inform our sense of identity and connection. As human beings, as Unitarian Universalist human beings, our interconnection is what gives us strength. It's what gives us hope and also resilience. In this age of social distancing, perhaps especially in this age of social distancing, what does it mean to be a human when we find it hard to stay connected? How do we find joy in this experience? Because joy is what renews our spirits and gives us that sense of resilience. How do we put ourselves in the way of beauty, to quote Cheryl Strayed? And most importantly, how do we extend to ourselves the same grace and compassion that we would extend to others? What does that interior spiritual journey look like? Does it look like a labyrinth? Does it look like a journey, that journey to the heart of who we are? And who do we invite to walk with us on that journey? These are the questions that we will consider today.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to share with you this morning the story for all ages, I Am Human, a Book of Empathy by Susan Verde. I was born, a miracle, one of billions, but unique. I am human. I am always learning. I'm finding my way and choosing my path on this incredible journey. I have big dreams. I see possibilities. I have endless curiosity. I make discoveries. I have a feeling of wonder. I am amazed by nature. I have a playful side. I find joy in friendships. I am human. But being human means I am not perfect. I make mistakes. I can hurt others with my words, my actions, and even my silence. I can be hurt too. I can be fearful of things I don't yet understand and timid to try something new. I have a heavy heart when I feel sadness. I am human. But then I remind myself that because I am human, I can make choices. I can move forward. A poor choice can become a better choice with thoughtfulness. A bad day can become a great day with kindness. I can act with compassion and lend a helping hand. I can treat others with equality and be fair. I can choose not to fight, but instead to listen and find common ground. I can say, I'm sorry, and ask for forgiveness. I am human, one of billions, but unique. I am not alone. I am connected to my friends, to my family, to the world. We are all humans together. And I will keep trying to be the best version of me. I'm full of hope. I am human.
We will continue to meet online for the foreseeable future, but we do have some important events coming up, such as the auction you may have read about in your Kairos newsletter. You can check out other events, other programming in that newsletter or on social media. In the meantime, please check in with one another. The connections right now are so important as we feel increasingly isolated. Reach out to someone, give a phone call, perhaps a text or a note. It can mean so much to us right now. We'll now take up an offering to support the work of justice and mercy in our world, fundamental to the identity of Unitarian Universalism. 80% of what is collected today will go to the Liam Foundation, the first LGBTQIA resource center in Rockford. And I want to take this opportunity to apologize. Last week I misrepresented their mission statement, so we get to do it again this week. The Liam Foundation, so important. It helps local LGBTQIA individuals in their search for services and support, and also offers training and education on how to meet the needs of this community right here in Rockford. Thank you for your generosity. You can give online by texting the number on your screen or by going to www.uurockford.org/donate. Be sure to select Share the Plate there. The offer will now be given and received.
Good morning. I'm Shiraz Tata, and I'm glad to be your worship associate today. As I read Reverend Mitra's description of today's sermon, I nodded vehemently on seeing her words. She says, "Today it is easy to become so overwhelmed we no longer feel human. If we don't find time to decompress, we can forget how to nurture our minds and bodies toward the gentle human experience. Today we explore the spiritual journey toward our humanness." This really resonated with me. For those of you who attended UUC Rockford, it's been almost 8 months, but you may remember me buzzing around, going to a meeting after coffee hour, down that hallway to the library, or trying to talk with a couple of people in Deal Hall, or welcome some newcomers after the service. One thing that this pandemic has done is that there's nowhere for me to buzz around. It has given me the opportunity to be more still and to decompress more than I might have had time or made time to do before. My mind, however, can still go here and there, and my heart has been heavy at times. I notice that when I get overwhelmed with everything going on in the city and country and the world, I might do some things that don't really need my attention in a way to numb what's going on. I see that as a clue that maybe I do need a break and try and think of other ways to manage my anxiety. Getting out into nature where I feel most connected spiritually almost every day, or at least making some time to look out the window, has really helped me to decompress. Being mindful as I look up at the outlines of the bare trees against the beautiful blue sky, the dry hydrangeas hanging on for dear life to the stems of the plant, even though it's been pretty windy these last few days, seeing the little squirrels scurrying around and running up the trunks of the trees. These are the things that ground me and connect me back to my humanness and the beautiful world around me. I have found that when I get overwhelmed as I think about the protesters sitting outside City Hall asking for more transparency around police brutality and wonder how I can build some trust, I have found that taking them a meal and sitting down and talking with them helps me connect to my humanness and theirs. Let's keep thinking about what we do when we are overwhelmed and ways in which we can connect to our own humanness. What connects you to yours?
Hello again, it's good to be with you. Our reading today is a poem by May Sarton entitled Now I Become Myself. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time was there. Terribly old, crying a warning, hurry, you'll be dead before, what? Before you reach morning, or the end of the poem is clear, or love safe in the walled city. Now to stand still, to be here, feel my own weight and density. The black shadow on the paper is my hand, the shadow of a word as thought shapes the sharper, falls heavy on the page, is heard. All fuses now fall into place, from wish to action, word to silence, my work, my love, my time, my face gather into one intense gesture of growing like a plant. As slowly as the ripening fruit, fertile, detached, and always spent, falls but does not exhaust the root, so all the poem can give, grows in me to become the song, made so and rooted by love. Now there is time, and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live, all of myself and do not move. I, the pursued who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun. Let's take a centering moment to be embodied. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. If that's not comfortable for you or it's not safe, maybe just soften your gaze a little bit. Take notice of your breath. As you do, let all the clutter from this morning and the pending clutter from this afternoon fall away. Consider the words from May Sarton, my work, my love, my time, my face gather into one intense gesture of growing. And ask yourself, what would it look like for you to become yourself? What would it feel like? And how would you know? Let us be together in a moment of silent reflection. And I invite you to come back to your screen, to each other in spirit. Let us hold ourselves tenderly. And as we do, as we always should do, hold one another tenderly too. But we pray, all those who are lonely or afraid in this hour may soon know love and comfort.
Often and much, to laugh often and much, to laugh often and much, to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people, and the affection of children, and the affection of children, and the affection of children. Often and much, to laugh often and much, to laugh often and much, to laugh often and much, to earn the appreciation of honest critics, and to endure the betrayal of friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in all others, to leave the world a little better, whether by a social condition or a garden patch or a healthy child. To know even one life has been easier. To know even one life has been easier. Has been easier because you live, because you live. This is to have succeeded. This is to have succeeded. Of children, and the affection of children, and the affection of children. This is to have succeeded. This is to have succeeded. To know even one life has been easier. To know even one life has been easier.
Wow, thank you. Okay, so a few summers ago, I found aphids in my garden one year. So I went down to my local garden shop and they sold me on ladybugs. Ladybugs eat aphids. And so I bought some. They came in this pint-sized container, 1,500 of them. The top of the container had this mesh for air and food, and the ladybugs, as much as they could, were kind of clinging to the mesh. I was a little worried about them. I brought them home and read the instructions. Refrigerate for 2 hours so they get cold and fall asleep. then thoroughly water the garden, and at dusk, open the container and sprinkle them on your plants. I did just as instructed and watched. At first, they sort of sat there, cold and asleep on the dirt and leaves. I imagined they were dazed and confused, perhaps traumatized, for who knows how long the 1,500 of them had been in this pint-sized container. After a bit of time, they started to crawl around, and I thought, thank God they're not dead. Night came, we all went to bed. In the morning, I rushed out to see what had happened. They had found their legs, and they were spreading out a little. They moved fairly quickly on the plants. Some had made their way to the aphids and were munching, much to my delight. Some looked like they were basking in the sun, for when I stood over them and blocked the sun with my shadow, they scrambled to find another warm spot. Time went on. I left. I returned. And by mid-morning, they were doing something I didn't expect. I think it can be described as mating. I'd never seen ladybugs do that before. Hundreds and hundreds of them in pairs, yes, one on top of the other, working away. I felt shy and amazed for witnessing it. I decided to let them be. Eventually, they found their wings. They kept eating, and I hope they laid some eggs after that meeting for more ladybugs to get those aphids. During those 24 hours, I wondered what was it like for them to be out of that container and back on plants, if they ever were before. To be feeling the sun and drinking the water and searching for their meal. Was the garden a blessing, or was it a really scary jungle? It was like I got to witness them becoming ladybugs again, finding their soul and purpose, stretching themselves out and living. We all have containers of our lives. Unlike the ladybugs, ours are mostly self-made. Actually, the containers can be things that we want, responsibilities we have, structures to keep us going. They're lanes on a highway that when we stay in can keep us safe. They are the people that we love and support. They are the work that we do. They come in the forms of love and maintenance and desire and much more. And they serve a purpose in our lives. For sometimes being connected or attached allows us to live more freely. To have a container can allow us to stretch out. We are stronger in our living when we have a community that holds us up. But that community is also a container. And sometimes we lean into those containers so much that we lose our balance and they close in on us. Stress prevails, anxieties are heightened, sorrow is ever present, worry is constant, perhaps illness exists, and life is difficult trying to stay alive. We can grow codependent on our containers. Our happiness is dependent on the container, and we can think that's all there is for us. This heightens our personal edges, things that show up when we are stressed. For some, it might be the ways that we shut down or disengage out of desperation rather than rejuvenation. For others, it comes in sharpness or cynicism. Neither is the fullness of who we hope we are. If we fall into the containers, we end up circling around the walls of ourselves, and we can start seeking escape. In addition to the containers we create for ourselves, life-enhancing ones and life-limiting ones, the world can reinforce a sort of container by its inhumanness. So much that is meant to sustain us can be argued as a tool for separating us from ourselves and one another, eventually dehumanizing our faith in life. It could be the boxes of stuff that we call our home, or the chores to keep our life going, or the tasks of busy work that keep us away from imagination, the things that keep us from being swept into that beautiful creativity. For some, it's the congestion of busy lives or work conditions or mental, verbal, physical violence we witness or experience in our homes and in society. For some, it's the oppression in the world that we either hear about or we know or we experience. We feel less like the humans we hope we are when we live with things like policies that separate children from their parents as a form of punishment, or when our government removes health insurance for some people in the middle of a global pandemic, or when our president shares his belief that some white supremacists are good people. Then there are enormous lies that we're told that we live amongst. Sometimes I think we're buried under. They're transparent as lies, but it's astonishing, and yet something that is part of the air we breathe sometimes. And we begin to wonder, when the world is presenting itself in inhumane ways, we begin to wonder, what does it mean to be human? What are we humans doing to ourselves and to each other? Where has our sense of life actually led us? Sometimes I try to respond to these questions with the words from Maya Angelou, who I believe got it from somewhere else, but she said, "I am human, therefore nothing human is alien to me." Beautiful sentiment that I can understand in abstract. I want to embody this. Yet I feel like the things that we have seen in our leadership do in the last 4 years is alien to me. I want to understand why and how people believe, but I can't. And to be honest, after a couple years, I gave up trying to understand. I became myself less human. Personally, in the last several years have been rough for me, not just because of a shockingly inhumane president, but because of many life-changing events, one after another, that I have experienced. So when I think of the last 4 years, it weighs very heavily on my heart. And now, of course, is the pandemic. I think we're all tired of being scared, and we're all trying to stay the course until COVID-19 is less threatening. It's been rough for the world. And I, like so many others, think about, envision escape. Sometimes that escape comes in the form of a good drama television show, enthralled by the stressful lives of fake people on TV, lets us set our own aside for a minute, as long, of course, as it's not too real. Sometimes for me, it's binge listening to a good podcast. It's kind of a numbing out in order to allow our bodies to catch up, to keep up with the paces of the inhumaneness that we are surrounded by. But other dreams of escape are things like fantasizing about winning the lottery. I know exactly what I would do when I win. Or fantasizing about a vacation, or even seeing family, perhaps a retirement, some kind of relief. We long to transcend the containers, even if they're self-created out of things we want in our lives. We seek to transcend our mind and our body and our soul's responsibilities and the injustices and the stress. It is a longing to get out of ourselves and know that we are supported, loved, and yes, human again. Ironically, we are of a faith that calls us to engage more deeply in the human experience rather than fantasize about the escape. Unitarian Universalism is human-centered, asking us to examine our human experience and embody our humanity with intention, with the sense of progress, with a sense of expansion. To incarnate spirit, become flesh, not just in body, but in the entirety of the human experience, body, mind, emotion, and will. Incarnate from the ethereal longing to escape into heaven, into the embodied presence of this world. Our faith is one that says there is beauty on earth, and that meaning of life is found in the experience of the individual and collective humanity. It is found in love shared between people, in the labors of our mind, in the hopes of each heartbeat, even in the spirit of each embodied breath we take. We have a faith that says our religious task, our spiritual journey, is focused on ways to embody the flesh and soul of being human. Yet the Unitarian Universalist call into humanity's human-ness can present a bit of a problem, because that embodiment of our lives is difficult when we're surrounded by inhuman structures. So we have to work. The spiritual task is to clear our minds of clutter, develop our character, heal wounds, strengthen the soul, feel the sun rays, touch the earth as holy ground, to work, eat, perhaps mate, and find our wings again and again. Hopefully we find, when we look, that underneath the surface of the harsh world is a whole bunch of beauty that exists and thrives. There's no better time to engage with being human again than now. We're all in this kind of liminal space, and as I thought about this date, this late November date, I thought about the presidential election being over. And we can take an extra breath. Don't worry about all the clutters of challenges and voter fraud threats and blah, blah, blah. Now is the time to exhale fully and inhale a new beauty. The liminal space is also the pandemic itself, and it can cause us to question our humanity's worth. So there are 4 things that we can do to help us return to our Unitarian Universalist faith and feel our own humanness. I'm going to go through them. The first, as good Unitarian Universalists, we start with ourselves and choose to believe in the inherent worth of human life, to believe in our own life and to believe in one another. Those are not just words. We can say them very easily. They are something to embody, to believe in our own life and to believe in one another. And what that means is to combat our own cynicism. Let's be honest. As privileged people, we have the ability to sit back and critique or dismiss others. Part of our religious work of embodiment is instead to believe in the inherent worth of another. And I think the people who should be our guides are people of color. They've mastered this faith in the inherent worth and dignity of others again and again throughout history. When evidence can be really hard to find, it is faith. Believe in our principle that leads people of color to the streets to engage again and again. I'm amazed by people of color who battle their own cynicism and speak of hope for the self, the children, the community. It is a ministry offered to the world from people of color to believe in life, in our own life, and the lives of one another. It's so easy for cynicism to take over, to say, people are awful. to protect ourselves from being invested, embodied, and connected. I'm guilty of it at times. Ultimately, we stop believing in the other and start to become that which we dislike, inhumane ourselves. So we temper our cynicism to become human again. The second thing we can do is to tell stories of our humanness and inhumanness. Tell stories of what has knocked us over time and time again, what makes us numb, what gets us angry. Tell the stories also of softening your heart, times when touch brought you alive, when you felt connected. Tell the stories of love and hope. Telling the stories reminds us of the breadth of our humanity and allows us to remember how we became and what we can become. Telling our stories is sustaining towards becoming human again. The third practice for feeling human is to flip the notion of seeking heaven on its head and assume that it's right in front of you, here now, not after you die. Then, as the writer Cheryl Strayed says, you have to put yourself in the way of beauty. This is not the old adage, look for the positive or the good in everything. That's too shallow, because sometimes there is no good in our sorrow. But we can put ourselves in the way of beauty to reveal that there are heavenly things here on earth, and we must allow ourselves to be knocked over by the beauty of the world. It can be nature, breeze on our skin, or a sunrise. It can also be your own dream or another's dream, another's heart, or witnessing the attempt of another. There's nothing like helping someone achieve. Beauty is in the creative spirit that inspires our expression, but it's not easy to let in. It feels good, but we don't let it in. So we have to work at it. We have to do things like get up early in the morning to see the sunrise. We have to listen deeply to one another in order to help. Because when we put ourselves in the way of beauty, we are putting ourselves in the way of life, of hope, of fierce, just goodness, and take a moment to breathe in the love that exists throughout the world. Feel the great world that we are part of. Put yourself in the way of beauty and allow yourself to feel human again. And the fourth way toward becoming human again is to humble ourselves. We humble ourselves because, in truth, we have not yet lived into the fullness of grace that is our lives. We have not yet realized the beloved community in our bodies and our souls. We have not fully understood our potential. We have all let people down and been a disappointment to others. We've all felt the dread for something that we said or did. We've all taken things that we did not need. There are things we cannot do. There are things that we do not know and that we should not fake. So we should humble ourselves. Hopefully, we can do it early enough so that we can embrace our mistakes. Slowing down, stepping away, unwinding our minds, laughing a little more can return us to the grace of humanity. For when we are in full grace, we are not our own and cannot claim full credit. Rather, we are an extension of something much larger, working to help others become human again, too. So believing in humanity, or combating our cynicism, telling our stories, putting ourselves in the way of beauty, and humbling ourselves will lead us to remember that heaven is a human experience. And heaven includes sorrow. If there's one thing that we do this fall as we wait for things like vaccinations and administration turnover and get through the holidays, let us focus on the embodiment part of our religious journey and become human again. May it be so.
Life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things. Blue waves whitened on a cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell, has music like a curve of gold, scent of pine trees in the rain, eyes that love you, arms that hold, and for your spirit still delight, holy thoughts that start the night. Spend all you have for loveliness, to buy and never count the cost. For one singing hour of peace, count a year of strife well lost. And for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be.
To close today, I'd like to share with you a poem that was written by Kimberly Quinn Johnson. It's entitled Fitted for This Day, and some of the words originally came from a poem entitled Poem for South African Women that was written by June Jordan. She presented it on August 9th of 1978 at the UN. Kimberly Quinn Johnson writes, "We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for." At this moment, the chalice in the sanctuary will be extinguished. Please join us in singing the closing hymn as our benediction.